The Gravedigger's Ledger. You never know how deep the roots of betrayal can dig until you find yourself at the bottom of a shallow grave. That's where they buried me. Metaphorically, of course. It was a cold morning when I was let go from the cemetery, the very place I thought I'd found purpose among the dead. The accusation was as thin as a whisper, but it cut deep. I had left a grave uncovered. The earth was fresh, the body still warm, and they blamed me for the ensuing horror. Delusional, they called me, unhealthy obsession. The very words echoed in my mind as I walked away from my childhood home, disowned by the family that once nurtured my dreams. Fast forward several years. I returned, not as the scorned groundskeeper they cast out, but as a shadow of my former self, cloaked in an aura of grim knowledge. I had become a cryptobotanist, a specialist in the flora that thrived in burial grounds, plants that whispered secrets of the dead. My work, once ridiculed, had garnered attention, but not the kind that brought applause. It was a dark recognition, a warning of the terrors that lurked in the margins of our understanding. As I stood before my family's home, the air around me felt charged, almost alive, as if the very ground beneath their feet trembled with the weight of dread. I had something to show them, something they would not soon forget. I knocked, and the door creaked open, revealing the faces of my past skepticism, etched in their features, mixed with a hint of fear. Their laughter had died long ago, replaced by a tension that hung in the air like an unspoken curse. "Look who's back," my brother sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "The mad scientist." I offered no retort. Instead, I stepped inside, my heart pounding not from anger, but anticipation. I had brought them something special. Something that would bridge the chasm of disbelief they had carved between us. The living room was just as I remembered, tacky floral wallpaper peeling at the edges, the smell of stale coffee lingering like a ghost. I reached into my satchel and pulled out a small vial filled with a deep, murky liquid. "This," I said, my voice steady yet tinged with urgency, "is an extract from a plant I discovered, a necroflora. It thrives only where the dead lie. It carries their essence, their pain." My mother's face paled, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "You can't be serious," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Watch," I commanded, my pulse racing. I poured a few drops into a shallow dish and set it in the center of the room. The liquid began to shimmer, and a low hum filled the air, vibrating through our very bones. And then, silence. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch and twist, creeping closer. My family watched, horror dawning in their eyes as the air grew heavy, thick with anticipation. The hum transformed into whispering voices, soft cries that echoed from the depths of the grave. It was a cacophony of emotions, sorrow, regret, longing. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" my brother shouted, but I didn't listen. I was beyond their pleas, beyond their mockery. I needed them to see, to understand what they had dismissed as fantasy. The shadows coalesced into forms, indistinct but undeniably present. Faces emerged, gaunt and hollow, eyes glistening with anguish. It was as if the dead had come to reclaim their stories, to confront those who had forsaken them. I felt their weight pressing down, the collective agony of souls who had been wronged. "Mom, Dad, look!" I cried, gesturing towards the apparition of a young girl, her eyes wide with fear. She reached out, her ghostly fingers brushing against the air, seeking connection. "These are the ones you laughed at, the ones you thought were nothing. They're real, and they're begging for acknowledgement." My mother staggered back, clutching her chest, her breaths shallow. My father, once a pillar of strength, trembled as he faced the relentless tide of the past he had chosen to ignore. We didn't know. We thought— Thought what? I interrupted, my voice rising above their panic. That your disbelief would shield you, that burying your head in the sand would keep the horrors of the world at bay? Suddenly, the room grew colder, the shadows darkening. The whispers became a crescendo. A keening wail of despair that clawed at my family's sanity. They were trapped, ensnared by their own ignorance, forced to confront the very truths they had scorned. And then, just as quickly as it began, it was over. The shadows dissipated, leaving only the shimmering residue of the necroflora in the dish. My family stood frozen, faces pale and eyes wide, as if they had witnessed the end of something sacred. "Why?" my mother finally murmured, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Why would you do this?" "Because you needed to see," I replied, my voice softer now, laden with the weight of understanding. "I am no longer the disgrace you once believed me to be. I faced the darkness, and I survived. But you chose to remain blind." I left them there, in the silence of their denial, as I stepped back out into the world, a world now stained with knowledge. I had become a harbinger of truth, a witness to the terrors hidden beneath the soil. As I walked away, I felt